This week, we had the biggest video game acquisition, to my knowledge, in video game history. You can't count the Activision Blizzard because that was a merger. So the value of that being like the 50 billion or whatever, that was the merger value. But the actual acquisition value here is, to my knowledge anyway, one of, if not the biggest, acquisitions ever made. Microsoft bought out ZeniMax Media, which is a parent company to a number of companies, but the one that everyone is obviously most interested in, was two of them, I guess, but it's one is, I think, also under Bethesda, is Bethesda and Arcane being the guys that do Dishonored and whatnot. So, this kind of came out of nowhere. We knew that many moons ago, Microsoft talked about how, or it was rumored to be anyway, that Microsoft were looking at a very big purchase. And I think we might have talked about at some point that it was rumored that EA was going to be what their purchase was. Mm-hmm. Instead, we got EA on the Game Pass, so it wasn't they didn't have to buy them to get what they wanted, I guess. But they did go out and buy ZeniMax for $7.5 billion fucking dollars. So, what does that mean? Well, it means quite a bit, actually, and this is quite a dense thing here, but the long short of it is, they get Bethesda and all of the stuff that comes with it, as well as Elder Scrolls Online, which was under ZeniMax Media and not under Bethesda. So we're talking about game franchises like The Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, Quake, Wolfenstein, Dishonored, Starfield, The Evil Within, Prey, and other AAA franchises. That's the majority of them that I came up with off the top of my head, but that's the majority of them. And those are some big dick swing games. I know everyone likes to poke fun at Bethesda because of the Elder Scrolls, because of Skyrim being ported to every fucking console known to man, and Fallout 76 being an absolute fucking dumpster fire. But Fallout and Elder Scrolls specifically are still, arguably, Elder Scrolls at least, are the most anticipated games of any console generation that they arrive on. Pretty much bar none. Anytime an Elder Scrolls game lands, everyone wants to know about the Elder Scrolls. They don't give a fuck about anything else. It's just the way it is. It's the most talked about fucking franchise whenever it lands. And so for Microsoft to just go out and buy ZeniMax is an unfathomable dick swing by Microsoft. This is not the Xbox division. This was Microsoft came in and did dad bought the fucking company for the son. Said, hey son, happy birthday. We got this for you. 24 hours before the pre-orders go live. We got this for you. To put this into perspective further, this is $7.5 billion, just shy of Sony's entire income for 2019, which was about $8 billion. Not profit, income. For not Sony, or not PlayStation, but Sony, the parent company of PlayStation. This is not something that Sony, even if they wanted to do, could make happen. They can't do that. And so there's a discussion to be had there, and I'll bring up that point afterwards. Also, of course, people were interested in how this affected the two games that were timed exclusives for the PlayStation 5 being worked on by Bethesda. Those two games were, or are, Deathloop and then Ghostwire Tokyo, both of which we've seen at E3 shows from last year and other events afterwards. Both of those were confirmed by Microsoft to be staying as contractually originally written timed exclusives for the PlayStation 5. So those games were going to come to other consoles and the PC later anyway, but people were concerned that this meant that the exclusivity was going to be completely wiped out. That's not the case. They're leaving it as is. Sony still gets their timed exclusivity with those franchises, and then they will go to other platforms. the plan, I have a bunch of notes here, sorry, I tried to get everything out of my head here. The plan is not to necessarily make everything exclusive. So this was another question that they had for them, obviously, when this happened, because people were like, holy shit, that's a lot of games that people have been buying on other platforms for a long time. So are all of them going to become exclusive now? Is this the future? People were like, Monopoly, 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 what's going to happen here? The plan is to not necessarily make everything exclusive, but there will be, as you would imagine for a company that's just spent $7.5 billion, there will be exclusives for the Xbox and PC via the Game Pass on a case-by-case basis. So some games will be exclusive, but not all games will be. And I have here in my notes as well, as a thought I had, is that there's almost value in making, strategically, some games not exclusive, because what it does is it has the consumer look and go, I can get this on the PlayStation for $70 in tax, or it's part of the Game Pass and with all these other games for $15 a month. So there's almost strategic marketing value in not making everything an exclusive, at least not right out of the gate. And so we don't know, but they have said definitively that not everything is going to magically become. It's not going to be like, now, will the Elder Scrolls be exclusive? That would be the biggest cuck in gaming history, to buy out the Elder Scrolls from being able to launch on the PlayStation. But beyond that, the question I have posed here right now, Jeff, to get you involved here, is what does this mean? What do you think this means for Bethesda moving forward? I have here, for example, will Microsoft try and get them to move the Elder Scrolls 6 up in the production line? Because right now, Starfield, which was their space game that they were going to be working on before the Elder Scrolls 6, was currently slated to be released before the Elder Scrolls 6. But I think Microsoft knows that between Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, not a fuck is being given for Starfield. They showed a JPEG of the Elder Scrolls 6, and the world caved in, and every news website ran the same article of, this is what we know about the Elder Scrolls 6 so far, which is nothing, because that's what people want to see. Do you think that that happens? And then furthering beyond that, do you think that Microsoft will get involved to try and force a higher quality bar for Bethesda games moving forward, especially if they're going to be exclusive to Xbox? Because, as we have seen from Bethesda here in recent years and recent releases, they've not exactly been hitting particularly high quality bars on their releases, but that was when they were on their own, and they're no longer on their own anymore. So what do you think this buyout means for Bethesda? And is it a good thing? Do you think this is monopolistic? What are your general thoughts?
I mean, I personally don't care. I don't, it's big. It's really, really big. But is it going to change the quality of games that come out? I don't think so. I think the way they market the game is going to be different. The microtransactions, the way they set things up is going to be different. Subscription things are going to be different. I think this is good news for Bethesda fans, because I feel as though Bethesda, although still makes games, they don't do a particularly good job at it. And I think Microsoft is going to understand that they're going to need to up the bar in terms of quality, consistency. And I think that's precisely what they will do. And I'm kind of with you on the fact that they will rush this game out quicker. Rush is probably not the right word to use, but they'll
move it ahead of.
Yeah, they'll prioritize the game because they just spent $1 billion. They don't have all the time in the world to wait like Bethesda and, release one game every God knows how long. They need to get games out. They need to make money because they just invested a astronomical amount of money. So I think this is nothing but good news For Microsoft fans, it's a little scary for Bethesda fans on the simple fact that things might become more exclusive. And that's only natural. That's just going to happen. They paid for that ability. They're going to use it to a degree. I don't know how much. If they're going to say, listen, the new games that are coming out, you guys are fucked. You got to buy an Xbox to play this shit,
or just Game Pass on the PC,
or Game Pass, exactly, or Game Pass on the PC. We don't want you buying a PlayStation. We get one thing that is certain with Microsoft, they are making a very, very strong argument to go out and buy their godforsaken console that I don't even really want to buy. But at this point, they forced my hand. I got to buy this damn console, and at the very least, I got to get Game Pass.
Well, I would just get Game Pass on the PC personally, because we have the PC to run it.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the very least, Game Pass is taking my money. At the bare minimum, they're taking my money. And they're doing it. I think Microsoft is doing the best they can in a battle they can't win. And I think what they're doing is throwing around their big dicks, throwing around their money, buying up whoever they can, getting a lot of headlines on them. They're doing this in like every few months. You're hearing this big fucking huge amounts of news leading up. I think they're doing a good job. I think the Bethesda buyout was a good one. I think it's money well spent. I think it's money they're going to make back in the long run. And I think this is good news for Bethesda fans. I don't see how Bethesda fans can get upset. Bethesda fans have been crying for years about regurgitation of the same fucking games, the same broken shit, the same fucking engines, the same old same, the gouging of the money. And here you go. Now they've been completely bought out. And so this, if you're ever going to have an opportunity for this to get better, it's not going to get worse. How does it get worse? I think that this was the savior that Bethesda needed, or Bethesda fans need, and Bethesda needed to rejuvenate it. And even if they do use the old engine again, which I'm sure they will, the fact that it's a Microsoft title, or now, I think that changes the game. I think people will go, okay, you know what? Let's give it a shot. Let's see if they made the difference. And if they make those quality differences, I think Bethesda could be right back in good graces with a lot of people.
Yeah, just speaking about Bethesda, not the buyout, is that when I reviewed the Fallout 4 originally, and I got to the end of that review, I said Fallout 4 will be the last game that fans will give Bethesda slack for.
Yeah.
Because it just perpetuated what you just talked about. The same bugs, the same shit, regurgitated whatever. And yeah, Bethesda fans were going to buy it. Look, because they'll buy anything. Like Nintendo fans, it just doesn't matter. They're going to buy it. They'll complain about it, but they're still going to buy it. But I felt like 4 was probably the last one. And then we got Fallout 76, and my point was fucking proven pretty much outright. And we haven't seen anything come out of them really since, because they haven't been putting anything out. And, yeah, I would be shocked if Microsoft let them get away with that kind of fucking
Yeah.
Now that they've spent
that money,
$7.5 billion on the parent company, right? Like, I'd be I'd be fucking shocked if they let them get away with that shit. So, regardless if it's Microsoft providing them the funds, or helping get them hooked up with more development
what about
teams.
Toddy Boy? Is he still going to be around?
You know what? I'm gonna be. I'll be straight with you. If I was at Microsoft right now, and I had literally any say in how this acquisition went, Todd Howard and Pete Hines would no longer be working at Bethesda tomorrow. Yeah. At best, Pete Hines is sent into the sun, and Todd Howard is relegated to salesman on the E3 stage. And at best, he's on the board to, like, you get to make some suggestions now and then. And that's the show. You get to go to E3, you get to wear the same fucking leather bomber jacket you wear, you love it so fucking much, you could put that bad boy on, you get out on the stage, and you tell a couple of jokes about how Skyrim is broken, and then how Alexa can play Skyrim now, and then everyone laughs, and you say, here's a JPEG of Elder Scrolls 6, and everyone jerks off in public. That's your job now, Todd. Your job is to incite people to break the law and jerk off in public over pictures of the Elder Scrolls 6 possibly happening before their grandchildren enter this fucking broken world. That is your job. You don't touch the game development anymore. You go away. Pete Hines, you've literally not been useful at any point in time. You're like a fucking Peter Molyneux, except without the personality. So just get the fuck out the company and go do literally anything else. Maybe join another animal sanctuary. I hear that's working out for other game developers and partners in game developers in other places. Maybe do that, Pete Hines. But you're not working at this company anymore. And then we're going to set new bars for quality. It's that simple. There is no more, there's the same 5 to 15,000 bugs that have been in the game since I played Morrowind on the original Xbox that kickstarted the collaborative effort that Microsoft and Bethesda have that would have led to any amount of this even happening despite the $7.5 billion cash. Because like Bethesda still had to say yes, or ZeniMax still has to say yes. They've worked with Xbox longer than anyone else. And so you gotta stop with that shit. Because I have to also imagine that Microsoft knows that Bethesda's name right now is tarnished. They're not worth what they used to. If you tried to buy out ZeniMax Bethesda just before Fallout 4, I don't know. I mean, it would have maybe it was still $7.5 billion, but you know, it would be more than that if you fucking inflation and shit going forward. However you wanted to change it up, I mean, it'd probably be closer to 10. But right now, Bethesda's name is how much cheap rum in plastic bottles can we push out the door, and how many canvas bags can we fucking fleece people on for like 3 years. That's Bethesda's name right now. They don't have anything else. So this was a great opportunity. $7.5 billion is a lot of money, but it could have been worse, and it would have been worth more money in the past. So I think Microsoft knows that, and I think that they know that if they want this to go well and have people actually get behind this moving forward, that they're going to want to know that A, Bethesda's going to be mostly left alone to do things like still allow people to modify the games like they have for decades, because mods are such a big part of that ecosystem, but also ensure that there's some fucking quality control for once, because there hasn't been quality control for fucking 20 years now. Shit's crazy. So I think it's a massive move. It obviously adds almost incalculable value to the Game Pass.
Yeah.
And this further proves how invested Microsoft is in driving sales of Game Pass. Yes, they want you to buy an Xbox console. Is that their primary focus? No. The Xbox console is just one of a series of vehicles in which you can climb into that gets you driving towards the Game Pass, which is where they're going to make their money. And right now, they're over 15 million subscribers to Game Pass, and the shit just started popping off.
Yep.
Now we've added, yeah.
Now they're just paying. They're going in debt over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and you know it's cost them a fuck ton of money. But in the long run, dude, when they run the market and they've got all those bagillion ass subscriptions, then they're gonna raise the prices. They're gonna find new ways to monetize, and that's when they're gonna cash in big. They're just buying the market right now.
This is how I see it, is that I think also Microsoft is looking at the market and seeing that games are going to cost $70 plus tax US going forward. Getting people to have a high attach rate of games to consoles at $70 a fucking pop is going to be harder and harder and harder. And when you tack on microtransactions and ads for fucking, lube in the middle of your UFC 4 combat fucking your in-ring octagon ads and shit, everything else you want to cram in to monetize it. I think that they see that it's going to be harder for the consumer to do that up front on the games they want. And how do you do that and lock in more value over the lifetime of a console or a vehicle? You get them onto a subscription service. And like we talked about before, this bitch could go up to $30 a month US, and for most people playing one game a month is still half the cost of a new game outright. And so unless you're a person who says, well, I don't technically own the game because if I stop paying for the service, I'm out, unless you're in that group or want to have a shelf of physical games behind you, there is no reason financially why you wouldn't want to be a part of a service like that. And Microsoft is in a unique position in the gaming market to be able to afford to position themselves early against everyone else. Like we just said, they just made an acquisition, a part of this business idea that is almost as much as the entire revenue for Sony of last year. So they're taking that opportunity. Here's something else that I would say to kind of ease people's minds about this. Where they, in terms of monopoly, this is not even close to a fucking monopoly. Sony and Microsoft have both been buying up studios left and right. This is just the biggest individual purchase. But they have both been buying up studios like fucking crazy up to this point. Here's the difference that you're going to see moving forward between Sony and Microsoft's attempt to corner certain parts of the video game market. You're going to want to look at Sony like the boutique store. It's going to cost you more money, but you're likely going to get, on average, higher quality for that money, and that's going to be their marketing drive. We've got the best games. They are the prettiest games. They play the best. It's whatever. They're going to corner that high end, almost like you're selling a sports car to somebody, or you're selling instead of like, I know you're looking at that fucking fully loaded Camry, but for 15 grand more, you can step into a Lexus. Lexus is the Sony. You get Microsoft that's going to get you 80% of the way there, but if you want to spend that extra couple of dollars, we're going to get you fucking white glove service all up in our Sony console with all of our games. We're going to turn into the Apple of the video game market. We're going to push marketing hard. We're going to be the sexiest looking console. We're going to say that we have the best curation for games. We're going to position ourselves not as somebody who just simply buys, but who cultivates our own video game developers internally to make these games. Microsoft, in the last console generation, and partially the one before, fell woefully behind PlayStation in that part of the business, where Sony, knowing they don't have that kind of money, had the time to sit back, especially in the last generation where they outsold the Xbox like 2-1, had the time to cultivate their own development in-house to make masterful games coming out of the likes of things like Naughty Dog, for example. The games that are better than the stuff that Microsoft makes. Or they get the God of Wars and shit of that caliber. That's a different fucking animal, a different beast from what you get on the Xbox side. And that's not something Sony necessarily went out and bought a parent company to acquire. They helped grow that shit internally. That's why it's boutique, and they're going to continue to do that because they don't have the money to spend $7.5 billion on ZeniMax Media. Microsoft, unfortunately, doesn't have the time, which Sony had. And what's the opposite of time? It's money. And what does Microsoft have? Money.
Tons of it.
And so they're spending the money to put themselves in a position to go up against Sony at that same level, but acquiring people with the hopes that they can do it for them because they don't have the time to play that catch up. If they did, they'd be long gone and way too far behind. So you're looking at a big box retailer in Microsoft versus the boutique sales corner of Sony. You're going to likely get that kind of marketing distinction between the two of them. Very different methodologies for the very different money and time difference between those two companies operating as competitors in the market. Microsoft is not suddenly a fucking monopoly because they bought ZeniMax fucking Media. And nor is it suddenly going to mean that they're going to be the only operators in the market. People were very doomsday about this shit. Somebody else will come up to also do it. Microsoft sees where the market is going. The Game Pass will not be unique for very long, but they're getting in the first mover position. position while also tacking on value to other segments of the market, like cloud gaming with the xCloud, that other people are trying to make a run at. But they also know, like you said as well, it's too early in the game. So they're not pushing it, but it's there, and it's part of the package, and it will get people on. So it's all I'll say is I'll wrap it up on this. Phil Spencer is a fucking god, and he's not making enough money at Microsoft. Whatever they're paying Phil Spencer at Microsoft, fucking 5x that bitch tomorrow. That man took a literal dumpster fire wasteland of the original launch and the first few years of the Xbox One, saw that he wasn't going to be able to do much more than salvage the end of that console generation, and then pivot the company towards taking on the next generation and arguably the one that's after that, playing some fucking chess. And now look at where Xbox is. If you compared them, where Xbox is now in terms of what they're marketing and how they're pushing for games and early easy access to games and value versus whatever the fuck the original Xbox One was, night and day. And he's just not getting paid enough fucking money. But you know who is getting paid too much money? Pete Hines and Todd Howard. They should probably get paid less now. Should probably move them the fuck out, relegate them to something else. But big moves from Microsoft nevertheless.